This just means that officially our journey's begun. And it had begun when we first got on, but this is telepathic. And what I mean by telepathic is we are all telepathic. We always have been, we always will be. It's not something anyone has to develop in the future. That's an illusion. You already knew it much better long ago than you know it now. This is important to know, or you really can't come into present time with dealing with this on Earth. Earth and its people are not putting out an energy in any large numbers that's supportive of people recovering, waking up, being enlightened, or being free. And everybody knows it. So when you cross paths with the first sound behind creation, the hue, first half of the word human hidden in plain sight, you've done something in your creativity in life to find the work. What I did was make it available to the public. I brought it to the planet. It took decades to do the books and get ready for this work. Not only my own training and getting freed from myself as far as what's in a primary implant and then going beyond it and realizing how much has to be uncovered over several billion years of higher faculties that have been turned off or suppressed by us or by others before you were ever even implanted and put on this earth with no memory or very little. So there's a lot to recover. Subconscious stuff that has to do with any kind of fear is the one thing that needs to be dropped or let go by each individual if they intend to advance, progress, remember, recall, recover, awaken what they were made to forget, both deliberately and in some ways by yourself over a long period of time. It happens in this way. You come into the lower worlds as a fully aware Atma from an area that has no negative nature as a spherical being, and you start playing with bodies that were developed over a very long period of time by certain master races, like human, the DNA structure. The Saries have 12-stranded DNA, or they did. Humans on Earth too. People from Nerexilum 4, human. Makes a big difference in what you can know growing up and how you grew up and how long you live and everything else. So the science of understanding the genomes on the DNA is not new, it's ancient. But it's new for people on Earth. They're just starting to recover this. Supercomputers have mapped out the billion plus genomes that's on a single twin strand of DNA in a human cell. A billion. Each one is a switch operated by precise sound frequencies.
Unbelievable.
Interesting. So does Rife equipment and any cancer cure stuff work on precise sound frequencies. In fact, the whole universe does. When we're looking out in space at that whole black thing we seem to see as black in Hubble Space Telescope images, the human eyes can see a very narrow band. Not even as much as a cat can, who can see a little bit into the astral plane. So cats will see things going on around them that you don't even see. And they wonder what's wrong with their human. Why come they don't see this stuff? Well, they have eyes that can expand and gather more light than yours. So you need to get out of the body, and out is a natural being, or bring back to Earth the ability to understand this. So you can look out into the universe, into the hue, and see things and remember how to see things for yourself. The journeys I guide are done to help you see things you cannot see on your own yet. Things you used to know how to see very well, very easily, very effortlessly. Other planets, your own past lives down the time track, other dimensions, higher realities in particular, above and beyond the void. Because once we start connecting with that, we start bringing back energy that has no negative nature and superimposing it down over the form you're running on Earth. Your IQ goes up, your intelligence goes up, your ability to dominate fear and push it aside like the primary implant or anything in the subconscious you start to gather momentum to take control of these things because you're supposed to be masterful over them, not the effect of them. Anybody got any questions about that so far?
Very interesting.
Well, this is I can only share with you the truth about this stuff, knowing that you already know it somewhere in your being and it just needs to come to the surface. Confidence is a big one. Because people on earth in general, in societies on this planet, religiously and politically, are not taught anything but belief or faith. They're not taught knowing. They're not taught confidence. They're not taught how to leave their body, which they
No.
do every night, not consciously. So the way the world is on earth, it kind of does not support your doing that. So you have to do something extraordinary in your life and step beyond the norm of most people. When you found the hue in this work, you did something. I did not do that. You created finding it. I just made it available. And the people I work with, the beings I work with, made it available to people on earth at this time in this way. The hue itself, the omnipresent first sound, the omnipresent power, the living consciousness that people call divine spirit and don't really know what it is. It actually is space out there beyond the earth. All of that, it is in between and surrounding little galaxies that create electromagnetic fields so they can float in this other energy the same way we do as Atmas. You got to get this. Worlds and planets, galaxies are like plate with a big center, but everything that makes up a galaxy is spherical. Stars, planets, moons, suns, they're all spherical. And they're that way because they're made in the image of their creators, meaning all of us and the source itself. Before the worlds of time and space were built below the void, this stuff was created and put in place and managed or maintained by beings we call silent mentors, the mechanics of creation. Most people on earth could have a clue. Even most gurus on earth never have a clue these guys existed at any time because they've never really interrelated with us. They never really interacted with individual beings like a master teacher might have the loving, compassionate nature to train you or to help you over the rough hurdles you can't do on your own. But silent mentors never really had any reaction with us in this way in the past. They still don't, except in one place, and that is in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where we're going. Because that is the next level above the Atma plane, which is the first major division above the void, that certain esoteric groups call the void because they think, like Buddhists, very advanced Buddhists, think the void is the supreme being, and there's nothing beyond it. Of course, that's not true. It's a barrier. It's made of pure hue, so it's easy for people to understand. If they go that far and step into it, all they see is this pale blue light everywhere. There's nothing in it. No physical matter. No structures of any kind. But that's just a barrier, a shield between the upper realities we come from and the lower worlds of time and space. Quantum physicists know very well, can prove mathematically there are other higher dimensions, at least 11 they know of. They can't get to them. They don't understand how to access them. But the most advanced scientists on Earth today understand two things. They understand there is an energy out in space they used to call dark matter. But it's not a dark matter. It's a powerful energy. It's everywhere and it's packed full of it, and it is not nuclear or atomic. It has no atoms, no DNA. It's not like stars or planets or moons or suns or galaxies. It is the energy that supports all that floats in it. And that's on multiple levels. So when we go on these journeys, we go far beyond what a spaceship can do. A Emerald Star cruiser 10 miles long is designed to travel through interdimensional doorways that exist naturally in the universe between various levels because it was set up that way. Like transformers of a higher nature, transforming energy down to a little bit lower frequency, a little slower frequency, and you have these levels that have been created. Ships like that can travel to other galaxies in a day, or across the stars between the center of the galaxy and here. Does no problem at all for them. But they cannot take such ships into the astral plane. That's the next major division up from the physical universe. It's still matter there, still bodies there, still DNA, whole thing, but of a finer molecular time rate. Think of it in practical terms. You go up into the causal plane, there's a whole other division there. And there's a mental plane, an etheric, and then there's the void, and then we start to get interesting. We start to get into the higher worlds back where we originally came from. Eventually, every being is required, let's just say, encouraged at source to return to that source one day and contribute their unique experience to it to help change things, to make things better. And beings have not been doing this. Not just from Earth, but all over the lower dimensions. Been kind of stuck in the lower worlds because the experiment of good and evil, a failed experiment, is so effective. It got people caught in things and they don't even remember how to get back home. They lost that ability maybe 1 billion years ago, maybe more. So we recycle down in these lower planes until, by some miracle, somehow, we begin to recover what we were made to forget, or we made ourselves forget. That black area in space, to us out of the body, is a white golden light everywhere. It's there, present. You can't even describe it, really. And yet galaxies made of matter and molecules and atoms float in this other energy. The atom is made of the source energy itself. So we can travel in that medium that is non-nuclear or non-physical. Laws of physics do not apply to us. The speed of light has nothing to do with this. It is not a limitation at all. And gravity, none of these things are limitations that affect the atom when it moves. So we've always had this ability to move around the multiverse. But when you're born on Earth with no memory, you don't remember any of it. There's only one thing in the way of any of that recall on different levels, and that's fear. Fear is artificially created. It was artificially created and brought into the lower worlds as part of the old experiment of good and evil. And it's a failed experiment. Everybody on Earth should know it's failed. You just look at the world and that didn't work out so well. So if we want to change it, which we all do, then we have to go to where it can be changed. And that's not in the lower worlds of time and space. And we're going to have to work with or brush shoulders with the silent mentors as well. Because if you want to change something, like permanently stop the flipping of Earth's poles every 100,000 years, which was done and is done, the poles will not flip on this planet again. That's fairly recent. The last 4 or 5 years when that took place. And it was not done by people on Earth. It was not done by classified people on Earth. It wasn't done by anybody on Earth. It wasn't even done by the Galactic Alliance or their technology. It's a bit beyond that. So that gives us the opportunity to really change, to complete a journey that's taken billions of years and wind up in a new evolution as a being than what we've known. So when we go to the U Expansion Ray Academy, we are in the middle of energies between silent mentors and master teachers. And there's no negative nature there, so figure it out. You can't bring any negative nature with you there, because the beings that are assigned to each of you make sure nothing of a negative nature, they can make sure it's turned off and will not go with you on these journeys. Even if you knew what was in your primary implant, and a few of you do, because it's just death and terror and nonsense, but particularly one related to how you got to be on this earth. There's still more behind that needs to be awakened. All the higher faculties of the atom and all of its layers correspond to the different dimensions. Each of the layers around the white core of the being is the Atma. Is a different faculty of co-creative being with Source itself. Each and single one of them. The different colors of the spectrum of light are relative to different dimensional planes. And we're intimately tied into all the levels as a single individual being because of this. Many of these teardrops in most beings, particularly people on Earth, are shut down or turned off or just not used anymore. Just no awareness to use them. Like the one that says, I can bring back anything that I do when I'm out of my body at night and bring it down to my Earth consciousness. And here's where I just went last night. To this planet, to that dimension, worked with these masters. So what we're doing is going on these journeys in order to recover awareness of how to do this in the life we have on Earth. Enlightenment cannot be ascended up into. It has to be brought here by you in co-creative harmony with other beings. And then you can ascend anywhere you want. The deal is that when you recover your awareness of working co-creatively in the high worlds, we begin to also recover our innate sense of what co-creating is all about. We begin to become solutions to problems and not people who continue to support problems. We begin to be a channel to resolve issues that cannot be resolved by people on Earth en masse. They couldn't save themselves from a herd of turtles collectively, much less keep from destroying themselves, because it's compulsory, it's subconscious. The people that blew up their planet on Maldek, which is an asteroid field circling in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter, in our own history in the solar system, he reincarnated on Earth. And the same destructive tendency is within many people on this planet. They're trying to reenact it subconsciously. So this has to be stopped. It can't be stopped by people on Earth. We know that. So it had to be stopped or headed in a new direction by beings who do not have subconscious minds, are not like humans on Earth, do not grow up, do not believe, do not think like people on Earth. And they are influenced by fear at all. These are the people we need to work with if we want to advance. So my job is in part to help people see what they can't see on their own, only because of some kind of fear or other. That's all. And fear is something that's negative that grounds energy to the atmosphere of a single planet like Earth. In which case it doesn't allow you to put your two parts together, positive and negative, and see in a whole manner, which we're supposed to be able to do. So we want to bring this yin and yang, these opposing forces have been split in our being for one reason or another. So we think in good terms and love for our friends and family, and we think of fear of the present and future at the same time. This divides the single energy that passes through us, the omnipresent power we're part of and are one with it, and splits it into two apparent opposing forces. That's what Maya or illusion is. They're really not opposed, except through the split consciousness of a being and how they're compelled to create both ways opposite to each other. So more advanced beings don't do that. They don't grow up on planets. They don't have the problems we grew up with. They're in much better shape to help us than people on Earth helping people on Earth, because that doesn't really work. People on Earth aren't awake enough to help themselves. So it has to come from the greater God. It has to come from outside Earth. It has to come from other worlds and other master teachers and things like that. And they have to have the will or incentive to even care about whether Earth blows up or not. And until fairly recently, they didn't have this regard. They were perfectly happy to let us do whatever we want, blow it up again, because they know nobody's going to be killed. We lose the bodies, lose culture. There's been nuclear war on this planet millions of years ago. It's not new. This planet's been able to support life for what, 4 billion years? Basically. It's a long time. There's a lot of missing history there. That's just for one planet. And people have been being brought here in colonization events for this planet, which is where all the races come from on this planet, for 65 million years, since the big dinosaurs were deliberately made extinct. That was all done from outside of Earth. You were all part of it. Most of you were part of a galactic alliance that came here in different colonization periods for this planet. Ancient beings. Wouldn't it be fun to know that again? It would be quite something to remember just how ancient you really are. So that's what our journeys are about. It's fun to have a small group of people. It's more intimate. There's more that we can do. It's fun that it's in English, because I haven't yet recovered in this body form how to speak all the languages I can speak when I'm out of my body, and I can speak any language. But this body and its conditioning was not trained in this way. Some people are natural linguists, and they can speak a dozen languages. Very few can speak more than 5. But there are some that can speak a dozen or even more. Some of them have photographic memories awake, but they're dumber than bricks in every other aspect of their being. An example would be someone who's trained to speak in the United Nations to translate English into Russian or Chinese or whatever. And they may have multiple linguistic characteristics, even photographic memories. Elon Musk has one. That doesn't mean he's aware of any of this, though. Okay? It's just compartmentalized, so to speak. When I send out the hue, there are other beings who do this in co-creative harmony with me at the same time. And you certainly are welcome to join us in this, because you'll be starting to co-create doorways between dimensions. We're going to bypass the lower worlds of time and space, because it's just going to take us forever to go play in the astral plane, causal. We'd be lost in that phenomena for another 5 billion years. And you'll still be in the lower worlds and still not remember. So we don't want to waste too much time with that. Fact is, you each have a body. For Will and Renata and Inez and Marshall and Margaret all have bodies you're running on different dimensional levels in the lower planes of time and space only. Physical body here, where all emotion comes from, that's passed down through the body you grow up here on Earth. Your real emotional state doesn't come from this lifetime growing up learning what you can learn in institutions on this planet or from parents or anything else. It's a much bigger picture than that. You have a body you're running on the astral plane. It has a higher genetic frequency, molecular time rate. Can live thousands of years there. And we're not talking in the physical universe now with immortalized bodies or bodies that can live thousands of years. This is astral. All energy is moved there by emotion. You get up into the causal plane, all energy is moved through the understanding of cause and effect. The more advanced beings never work this way. They always work this way, with positive and negative streams. You get up in the mental plane, thought moves matter and everything instantly. You have a body there. You get in the etheric plane, it's a transparent body. It's like images you've seen online of transparent angelic beings or whatever. Very little negativity, positive and negative, mixed in the etheric plane with beings, but there is some. And so each of these levels working together comprise what a single Atma does in running a body or bodies to develop this or awaken this ability to be a conscious, trustworthy co-creator with the source itself. To do that, we have to go back to the source many times, which is what we're supposed to be doing from birth. This is not the nature of people on Earth yet, but it is what they're destined to become. Earth is meant to be a spacefaring culture just in this parallel dimension, in this physical universe we call the Milky Way. It's not going to get there from where it is now without destroying itself again, without the assistance of more advanced beings who now have more of an inspired nature to help the younger races evolve without self-destroying themselves. This is why there's all these people coming to this world, 80 or 90 races at least, probably more, that come here regularly, all in secret, classified, under treaty, or they make themselves unknown to you if they're walking down the street in a restaurant you're in. This is simple stuff. They know how to mask their energy field, or they would not dare go on a mission walking down the streets in a planet full of crazy people as dangerous as Earth people are. They go through a lot of preparation to go on a mission here for your benefit. And they will stop in a city called Agamdes in a Himalayan mountain range in the third higher parallel dimension planet Earth that is not like the Earth you're familiar with. And there's a series of monks there that will put them through an energy conditioning so that they can stand the negative nature that's packed in the atmosphere that surrounds people on Earth and walk down a street and be unnoticed and carry out whatever mission they're doing. They are on Earth walking around, not a lot, but they are here, from many races, part of the Galactic Alliance. There's no reptilians or greys on this planet or in our solar system. They were removed from here more than 25 years ago. I wish that the people in the UFO and extraterrestrial and disclosure communities would catch up to present time, because none of that is going on. No abductions with little grays. Hasn't been a new case in 25 years of any of that. Which means we have the opportunity now to get it right without destroying ourselves. But not because of what we would do collectively properly, because there are other beings now involved in helping us get steered into a different direction, an unexpected direction, a disclosure direction. And that disclosure is being inspired to world leaders today in a way that basically lets them know if they don't disclose, it will be done for them without their help. And everybody will know what's been kept from by certain classified people in governments. That wouldn't be a good result. Be rioting in the streets and a lot of angry people. So that's not constructive. So these journeys are for those people as well. I know of certain classified people, generals and things like that, that are not and no longer fans of keeping things classified. The only reason they classify this stuff is because of weapons development. That's all. Getting it in the wrong hands, getting in the third world country something that's anti-gravitic propulsion, that they would only destroy the world with it. So things are classified between countries because of fear. And the leaders of the world at the time in World War II ended classified all this between 35 countries to try to keep people feeling safe and rebuild a damaged world. Be baby boomers, etc. This was a decision made on Earth, not by beings from outside this planet. And those beings respected that decision and stepped away from this world. There have been a number of people who have come here from the stars to meet with world leaders to get them to give up their nuclear weapons and radioactive man-made materials, because it is required if we're ever going to play among the stars further than the next few planets by Earth, because Earth people will not be allowed to explore the stars the way they are currently. Space is already occupied by far more advanced races. Okay. I say this to you because all of it is only uplifting and constructive. None of it is negative. None of it is negative. It's just to make you aware or help you become awakened to things you need to know to go further, to progress. Because this is telepathic, this means I'm speaking with you as an Atma. You might be looking at me with your eyes and looking at a Zoom camera, but that's not who I'm talking with. And so this information is being awakened in the consciousness you have on Earth. Little here, little there. Because when you walk around in the streets now, you're going to have a much higher IQ and higher intelligence. And you may think you're just like you were, but you understand stuff now, and you begin to know things again that your neighbors around you and in the world couldn't know if to save their lives. Fear would prevent them from understanding it. So all these journeys are about mastering or getting rid of or dropping or neutralizing fear in any form. That's the purpose of these journeys. The 4 books that are published through my publishing company and were written by me were done with the assistance of some very masterful beings over a long period of time. Trillian was one of them. Others I've met in my past long ago down the time track and who I may know today, like Ramu or Pelham or Etin Din, I've known for 100,000 years. They're still in present time, but they're master teachers now. When I met them 100,000 years ago, they were not. They were being trained. They have a quality and characteristic about them as Drens with silica-based energy bodies naturally evolved the ability to defy gravity as an organic species. Like a stingray or some fish in the ocean can glow in the bottom of the ocean or set up a sting in their tail, a silica-based creature can create a piezoelectric effect or an electromagnetic field around their bodies. Very rare to have an organic species that can defy gravity as a biological species. Not carbon-based. Silica-based. Like quartz or sand. This is stuff that you all knew and much more as scientists in your past, which you were, all of you. You, in normal planet where you've lived 100,000, 500,000, a million years ago in other levels, in most normal planets, you would have had probably by the time you were 10 years of age, the equivalent of 10 PhDs in training and awareness compared to a person on Earth. And you would have grown to a full mature adult in 6 months, not 20 years. And you would have had 4-stranded DNA, or at least 2-stranded with all the genomes turned on. You know, normal. And you would have known you're not the body you're running, and that it is a machine, and that it only gets its charge to run and breathe and move from you. It's a fact. It's a very complex and highly evolved process to be able to run a human body. People on Earth run it unconsciously, and yet, like masters, they know how to run them for what, at least maybe 100 years if you're lucky? And then they just turn like a prune and shrivel up and drop off of you. This is not normal. I know that's how you grow up, but it isn't. It's just the way Earth is right now. This means that you've had lives long ago, far more evolved and advanced than you have now. And this is you as an Atma running different body forms. Some of you know what 3 of those lives were, at least the beginnings, parts of them, that had no negative nature, no war, nothing like that. Because that brings that higher IQ and awareness into this life on Earth. It filters through us. So we go on these journeys to rub shoulders with beings who by direct example show us what our potential is. That's not on a blackboard or on a computer. They just channel the hue through them. The way they are aware passes through us and we pick up on it. So I will send out the hue now. First thing is to close your eyes, because then you're shutting off of your own free will. You're shutting off the ability of anything negative in the Earth's atmosphere that's programmed in the water vapor and in the water. You're turning that off. And when you do, just like when you close your eyes to go to bed at night, you're opening up an inner sight. People on Earth aren't trained this growing up, so it's not comfortable for them. They don't have a real grasp of reality on it. But the fact is, when we imagine going to the store, it isn't your brain at all. There's nothing in the brain anywhere, no mechanism that can imagine anything. There's no brain cells with a camera on one side that project an image onto brain cells on the other side. That's not what it's for. That isn't where you're seeing things from. We're seeing things as the Atma. And because it's on an unconscious level in people on Earth, they project down to the body that the body and eyes of the brain are seeing this stuff. It's not. There will be no real psychology and psychiatry and psychology and all of that will really be effective on Earth until people understand the different forms they're running on different planes and can have access to this kind of awareness. So if you got a problem in the emotional body and the astral planes affecting you here, drugs that suppress symptoms is not going to fix that. Can't. You need a higher science. A science that's not limited to one-dimensionality. A science that's not limited to thinking there's the speed of light. You can't go faster than 286,000 miles a second. That was determined by people using physical eyes in the atmosphere on Earth. It's hypocritical because they tell you, oh, I can see this spectrum of light, but then there's infrared, ultraviolet, and X-rays. They know about that because they can make equipment to detect it. Even composite what it looks like in an image of a galaxy shot by the Hubble telescope. So you see all these colors, but those aren't physical colors you'd see with your physical eyes. They're composites. So as Atmas, we see the whole thing. So when we go out in space, and we look into space and we look into this white golden light out there that's everywhere, the Atma sees this. It hears it as a sound. So you imagine being near the ceiling where you are, and you find there is two beings beside you, quite kind. One's male, one's female. These are Galactic Alliance personnel, not Federation. They're not Star Trek. It's a galactic interdimensional alliance of free world systems. It's very vast. They come from 450 million plus world systems in just a little under half of our galaxy. There's a planet called Zetranami 1. It's headquarter worlds for this organization. This kind of awareness has not been brought to the attention of people on Earth and the UFO disclosure communities or anything like that yet. These kinds of beings are here in our solar system. Actually policing our solar systems, or we'd all be dead already. So, they have a vested interest now in one thing: recovering the beings on Earth who once were part of them, who do no longer know it. There's a responsibility there. They aren't permitted to wave a magic wand and enlighten you. They are permitted to help you over the rough points that you cannot quite get over on your own. Some people on Earth call this grace. Grace comes from more evolved beings who decide to intervene to do something for you. But only when they think that if they do this for you, you will keep what they give you and go further. That's how they work. That's how they determine right discrimination regarding what and when and how they work with us. These beings are hovering beside you, and they're projecting a body form that looks flawless. When I say it looks 36, about 6 feet tall with long hair to their shoulders, a little bit bigger eyes than Earth humans, brighter, much higher energy. These are pure energy forms, projections of a human prototype. It's patterned after Satnam, actually. And it comes from the white core of the Atma. It is pure you. It is not a DNA or molecular or atomic body. You could touch it. If one of them appeared to you in a restaurant, you could go up and shake their hand. This is easy stuff. So they're there to help keep any subconscious fears you may have turned off for this journey. Whether it's secondary implants, if you still have them, or you haven't reviewed a primary implant yet, how you were killed and put on this earth, something that terrorizes most people. And they really don't want to see that or remember that, so they stay numb. It takes a certain courage to find this work and to go on these journeys. You've all manifested that. The beings we go meet, they all know this. And of course they do. I only work in co-creative harmony with these beings. They are not motivated by any of the baubles people on Earth take as valuable. Things or money, places. They're fine, all that's fine, especially for bodies that have Atmas running them who are awake. Because none of it can be taken with us. When the body stops working or breaks down, or we drop it voluntarily. Can't take any of that with us. There's only one thing we take with us when we leave this life, and that is what we're aware of. And it's what we're aware of that determines where we go, or if we return here unconscious in another body. It is awareness that changes all that. So they're showing you this perfect male and female form, perfectly handsome if you're a man, perfectly beautiful if you're a woman. And oddly enough, you're this being hovering between them, looking down on your body, and you're showing them the exact same thing. A perfectly handsome, 36-year-old young adult or perfectly beautiful female. This is something we've always known how to do, and we can do almost automatically as soon as fear is turned off. This is something we've never lost. It's telepathic. We can be out in space and hear people speak with vocal cords and have their mouths move, but we're really talking telepathically, atma to atma, through the physical form that looks perfect. But it's the atma that's really doing the communicating, each of us together. You can feel a sound, actually. You can see it as a white golden light, very pastel, transparent, coming down through the roof where you live. It's flowing down through you, through your body, sitting there or lying there. It's passing through you for your benefit. There's no negative nature in it whatsoever. And then it's moving out into the planet Earth's atmosphere and out into space, and it never stops moving. It's like the infinity symbol. It's always moving up and down and up and down. And we are plugged into that omnipresent source energy at all times. If we weren't, the bodies would stop working. We're always plugged into this source energy. But to be conscious, we need to know where that source is. We need to go there, confront or experience it directly, not bring any fear, so that we can communicate with this source and it with us. It does not compel us to worship it. It compels us to respect it and each other and all life. We are required one thing as beings in eternity, in the multidimensional creation. We are required to be respectful of all life. And to do that, we have to know what that life is, individually and collectively. We have to know what life is in other worlds and not be fixated and focused, grounded into just looking on the earth itself in one little quick blip of a lifetime. No, that's not how we're supposed to function at all. That's not normal. These beings standing or hovering beside you have a function. They are considered to be master teachers, yet they are technically very advanced, far beyond anything on Earth. Hundreds of years old compared to an Earth human, some of them thousands. They have photographic memories, all of them. They're telepathic like all of us. And they do not have subconscious minds, because in the Galactic Alliance and on the Xantronamus organization on the other side of the universe, no government tolerates their citizens being born or running bodies with subconscious anything. They neutralize that stuff as soon as they find it forming in anyone. These are the kind of beings we want to work with. These are the kind of beings we have to work with if we expect to wake up and recover. What we're doing, Terrellian, Satnam, in his own way, Master Pelham, Master Ramu, Etin Din, the Galactic Alliance personnel, like Shantial and Tonaltial, Dantium and Lamtium. These are names of 2 couples, 4 people that I've introduced to people on Earth because they are the spearhead of an organization of beings in the Galactic Alliance that are trained to assist people to recover who they are. And the first thing that has to be done is fear must be turned off to go on these journeys, or we can't make any real progress. So they're keeping your fears, whatever they may be, turned off just for the journey. And as we go out into the pure hue in space, into the pure spirit, into the omnipresent living power itself, we cannot bring or record or project any negative nature into that omnipresent living power that supports galaxies, that whole big black area in space that's so much more vast than the little things that float in it. You cannot record any negative nature in it. It's impossible. It's not made of molecular energy, space, and time, and yet is the energy we have to deal with to travel out of body or in ships which use antigravitic propulsion. They have to work with that energy that is non-nuclear to get around space far beyond the limits of what people think the speed of light is on Earth, because there is no such limit. It does not take billions of years for light from another galaxy to get to us. They're thinking of it in this little entrapped consciousness. There's a limit to the speed of light, so therefore we cannot get to people. It'll take forever, and it'll take for them to get to us. It's a self-fulfilling trap. It's unfortunate that they determined this speed of light thing and got locked into it, because that is now being broken down in people. The most advanced scientists are having to let go of this concept. Otherwise it binds them to the earth, and that's as far as they get. And they can't comprehend beings coming here in craft with a higher consciousness. Maybe their religion won't allow them to believe that, or it threatens them. The fact is, the greater God that everybody prays to is not on this planet. It's out there among the stars and in through the higher dimensions. And we're just one little drop of individuality in all of that. The next thing you know, you're in space. You're out there above and beyond planet Earth in a circle of beings standing around Ambassador Terrellian. Why him in the center of these beings? Because of who the Sayrays were. Past tense. Who he represents himself to be to you is an 18-foot tall human-looking form like a great god. Long, blonde, slightly wavy hair to his shoulders. Big blue eyes, very clear. Kind of a white gown on, bare feet. His fists are closed with his thumbs up, and there's a brighter golden white light around him than the white golden light that is the hue in space that supports all those billions of galaxies. And us, as atmos floating in it. This is how this works out here. You look at the planet Earth with its polar ice caps, its beautiful oceans, its landmass. You see the moon, meteor cratered, no atmosphere to speak of. It orbits the planet but does not turn at all. Nothing, not a zip zero, which is physically impossible. The planet's gravity of Earth, the sun and the other planets would have it doing something, so it's broken. It's not doing what it should be doing. And that has an effect on the water in people's bodies on Earth, by the way. So that needs to be fixed too. Out here in space, you see Trillian because he's showing you a body form that his race had. He's one of the shorter ones. They were 18 to 25 feet tall. 12-stranded human DNA, billions of years old. They immortalized their physical body over 1 billion Earth years ago. They did not originate in the Milky Way or even Andromeda. And they seeded life throughout the physical universe and the astral plane as well. In times so far ancient you couldn't even comprehend them. They brought these body forms they experimented on up to this higher capability genetically so that Atmas could run a higher form of nervous system and use the sensory mechanisms of those bodies to have experience in these different planes that were created. They were supposed to be bringing it back to source and delivering their experience, which, as you all know, was not being done. Hasn't been done for billions of years. Few master teachers have managed to get a few students out of here over several thousand years and a number of series of lives. That's changing now. You see Trillian because he has a physical looking form just like yours, that you're showing him that's flawlessly healthy, perfectly handsome, perfectly beautiful, about 36. We all have this capability. It's not lost, it was never destroyed. It's a function within the Atma, and all negative things that people think they are is in the field of energy outside of the Atma itself, in the electromagnetic field. The Earth, when you look at it from here, Trillian's pointing to it, you can see this golden field of energy coming out the South Pole in streams, coming into the North Pole and going to the North Pole. This is an electromagnetic field, a toroidal field, a zero-point energy field. It has a sound to it and a light characteristic. And it keeps the planet floating in this other medium, the hue, the first sound behind creation. A galaxy has the same energy coming out the south pole of the axis, going around the outer edge of the galaxy and coming in the north. An individual Atma, which is what we are, you're hovering above this body form you're showing people. You're a spherical being, and it has this same field of energy coming out the south pole and going in the north pole. Same as Earth, same as a galaxy, same as the whole creation. And that is made of the pure hue itself. And as individuals, this is how we float in this other avenue, this other creativity. When we go on these journeys, we travel in that medium that is non-nuclear and non-atomic. It is real energy. It's a living conscious power. But it's on a level of physics and understanding that people on Earth don't have any clue about yet. The beings we're with now understand this well. Many of the Galactic Alliance citizens and personnel are now going on these journeys up above the void for the first time. And many of them are teachers in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy where we're going. Because they can do it more quickly and more efficiently than we can on Earth. They don't have subconscious minds, for one. They didn't grow up on Earth. They didn't have negative surroundings like we do. These are the beings that are assisting us now. I don't know of any of them that place themselves on a pedestal above you. Not a zip, none, zero. They don't do that. They see your potential. What they're doing is running the hue through themselves as examples because they know it will pass through you. And as it does, it begins to raise your intelligence up considerably. You notice this back on Earth when you start being more aware and less afraid. You're walking down the street, you go to the same restaurant, you sit and listen to the conversations of people around you, and you realize how numb and unconscious they are. Judging them doesn't do them any good. So we let the hue flow through us in a conscious way. It will know what to do with each of those people when they're ready. We don't have that burden as individuals. But we do have a co-creative responsibility to allow this pure form of the hue to pass through us, unhindered by negative things. This is the whole point of our existence. Master Opelum is out in space in a circle of beings. And there's Will, and then there's me, and then there's Margaret, and there's Renata, and there's Marshall, and Inez. And there are beings, this man and woman beside you, standing beside you, keeping fear off, and generally just being great people for your benefit. People you've probably known before, 500,000 years ago, best buddies, long ago, who haven't been trapped on this earth. What else are they going to do with eternity other than go back home and help change things? See? So there's Master Ramu over by Earth, standing in this circle with his crystal staff with the Ankh on top of it, his maroon robe, his short-cropped curly black hair and beard, his coal black eyes, swarthy skin, dark brown skin, simple rope for a belt, sandals. And this guy hangs out in a city called Agamdas. When I say city, it's more like a monastery with a spaceport, a small one, with certain monks that operate there. And it's on Earth, in the Earth as it is in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. There's levels of Earth that people don't know exist. Galactic Alliance personnel obviously know this because they travel between these parallels in craft. They don't go into the astral plane, but they can go through 144 of them. And that's what the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds is comprised of. It's just different than people on Earth understand yet. So when they come here in ships, they don't just travel across space in our parallel dimension. They go through higher parallel dimensions to cover great distances and come down an opening and pop out here, near Earth. Perhaps above the volcano in Hawaii, up in the atmosphere, above Mount Shasta, above the Bermuda Triangle, above the Caucasus Mountains or the Urals, Russia. There are places on Earth where these doorways between realities exist. And there are silent mentors who run these doorways and guard them so the universe stays intact. Now we have the right to play in such things, but not by bringing our prejudice and bias and fears and destructive nature out there and screwing all that up. We aren't permitted to travel through such portals like a Galactic Alliance personnel can unless we can be trusted to do so. It's very simple. Silent mentors who run the mechanics of creation, they don't involve themselves in stopping us or repressing us or anything. They just guard these doorways. They manage them, keep them in place. If we have the right signal to them, like you're sending the hue out to them and wishing them well, as you try to pass through one of these doorways, they pass you on your way. Etta and Din are hovering above Ambassador Torellian, the Atma hovering above their body forms, just like you. There's no spaceships around us as in implant removal journeys. These personnel are the same people, but they come from a mile-long cylindrical ship stationed in the ice chunks that make up the 1.5-mile thick rings that circle the planet Saturn. They have bodies sitting in lounge chairs, couples, asleep. And then they have personnel that are awake and walking around. So they go out of their bodies to join us on these journeys. They are also Galactic Alliance personnel, cross-trained in almost every science. Up above Etta and Din, high up, is Satnam. Satnam is a being, which means true name, first personification of form you might see in a human. He doesn't have a body in the etheric, mental, causal, astral, physical worlds at all. He's the Purusha, or governor of the Atma plane, above the void, on the other side of it, first realm of the higher realities. Because up there, where we come from, there is no negative nature whatsoever, and there never has been. Now, if we want to change the way the lower worlds of time and space are run, and they're being mismanaged terribly, then we have to co-create being part of that change with beings in massive numbers that are willing to do this now. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And there's Satnam hovering way up there, and above him is an hourglass-shaped golden white luminous vortex turning clockwise. It is made out of an energy of the hue that comes from the Atma plane, passed down through the void, which is pure hue, by the way. No negative nature in that either. And then it creates this vortex, and what it's doing, because the hue is making up all these different levels on different vibrational level frequencies, it's creating a vortex made out of the hue that bypasses astral, causal, mental, etheric, and goes right up into the void. So we can directly get there, infinitely beyond the speed of light, let's put it that way. Cannot take a spaceship even into the astral plane made in the physical worlds, any more than we can take one up through that vortex into the barrier or into the void. That so-called black area in space all around us in every direction, behind the earth, behind the moon, above the moon, behind the sun, the billions of stars that are twinkling, floating in this other energy that's brightly luminous, but yet they're distinctly visible. Big blue, young, hot, white, giant stars, big yellow suns, 1,000,000 times bigger than ours. Red dwarfs nearing the end of their life. Big red giant planets expanding near the end of their life. These make up the stars, and most of them are binary or trinary star systems. We're speaking just in the physical galaxy of the Milky Way. The nearest star to Earth is a binary system, not singular like ours. Most are trinary. So they don't have polar ice caps on their worlds. Oceans aren't violent. Worldwide weather is calm and serene. The effect on the genetics of human beings with more strands of DNA than us should be obvious. This is not new to any of you. You had bodies like this before long ago, whether you remember them now or not. You did. There's no such thing as a human being made in the image of God looking like this. That's insulting to races that aren't human, that are more evolved than us, like Etta and Din. It's not the bodies that's made in the image of the source, it's the Atma. They got that all wrong on Earth. The physical form represents on Earth what your pure prototype human form is like, that is not made of DNA. So with this awaken you now, this energy that Terrellian's creating, some of us together, creating a transparent sphere of golden white light around us like a spaceship hull. But it's a little bit brighter than the hue in the physical universe. And we're moving upward collectively as a group, and there are over several hundred master teachers in this circle, and another circle behind us, who are going with us on this journey, some of whom you know or did know, to take a turn at teaching in the Hue Expansionary Academy. They go in shifts. They come from not only the Galactic Alliance, but parallel dimensions and higher realities below the void, where each of you also have a body stationed. These are your so-called higher selves. If you notice Earth and the condition of it, people's so-called higher selves are not helping them like they think they are. Because those body forms are also self-centered or selfish or lost in the reality and the illusion of the plane they're in. not necessarily aware of being above them or being below. One of the things we do on our return from these journeys these days is touch base with the etheric, mental, causal, and astral bodies you're running to get them to be aware of each other and starting to help each other like they should be. We'll do that on our return. This is all part of the journey. Waking up this awareness in the individual is part of the telepathic nature of this journey. The male and female beside you are absolutely adept, masterful at keeping fear turned off in you. Anything you grew up with, anything from past lives, any of that. Now you look at Satnam start to recede upward into this vortex, and we're moving up after him, following him. We have to have permission from him to pass across the void and enter his realm. He is a guardian. This is no joke. You don't pass him, you don't go any further. So he's leading the way. As we shoot up inside the middle of this vortex in this ship of light, and we're starting to move up further, you can see levels upon levels, upon levels, upon levels of galaxies, each section brighter as we go upward, brighter planes that represent the astral, causal, mental, and etheric galaxies in those too, but they're much bigger and brighter than down in the physical universe. And then we go up and find ourselves speeding upward into this pale blue luminous light everywhere. And we look down below our feet and see this vortex vanish. And now there's nothing around us in every direction but this pale blue luminous light. Certain esoteric groups on earth call the void. And we're moving ever upward after Satnam, who's receding upward into the distance until we begin to see he's approaching this white luminous beach. It's like a diamond-like beach. The sand is glowing a foot above the sands, and it borders this jungle of trees. But they're transparent. There's energy moving up and down the inside of the trunks. And there are atmos hovering above groups of these trees. And this beach spreads out as far as you can see in each direction and curves inward, as if it circles a massive, gigantic land. Here there are no planets or moons or suns or stars. No time and space as in the lower worlds. No negative nature whatsoever. This is the first realm of the Atma. You're looking at the shoreline. As Satnam sails over the top of the trees, we follow him. And as a group of beings, we look out over the horizon and you can see a diagonal snow-covered mountain range covering a blue type of rock or stone. And at the base of it is this long crystal, like glass and crystal palatial type estate. And there's two big blue pillars like lapis lazuli, blue stone with gold lace through them, and these golden steps leading up between them, foot-thick, glowing quartz-like material. And then you go in between them, there's a throne kind of chair, but he never sits in that. I've never seen him sit in it, so no. It's a crystal blue type structure with smoothed edges. It's more of a device through which the higher hue can pass into his realm. He doesn't need to be sitting in it for that to work. There's a pyramidal or triangular opening behind it that leads to the base of the mountain, and a very tall fountain coming out of the ground surrounded by beautiful flowering plants. It has this white scalloped edge like abalone. And there's blue and green and golden light flowing upward out of it and falling down in itself. And around it is a pale pastel, transparent, golden white light coming down into it, charging it. It's a device. It is a doorway. When you look out above this area and you look back at that garden, there's another smaller fountain down a moss-covered path coming out of 100-foot in diameter stone white floor, scalloped edges, has a statue of Satnam in it. There's 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms, his bare chest, very muscular, ripped. A little white tunic dress from his waist to his bare ankles. His hands are palms outward, facing down, pointing away from his sides. There's another shaft of white golden light coming down into that device, filling this bowl from his palms of his hands, passing around the outer edge in a smooth, luminous sheet, disappearing in the ground, behind a circular white stone sitting bench. 12 scrolled legs made of stone support it. We can go up that doorway, or we can go up the doorway of this bigger fountain. So what we're going to do instead of going through either fountain is you look up and you realize that this vortex we created continues upward from the upper atmosphere that surrounds the Atma plane where Satnam dwells. That is a brilliant cobalt blue light. The countryside, the trees, everything that's here, the mountain range, other mountain ranges, and luminous glowing sands of different colors that surround this place. There are no moons, no planets, no stars, no suns, because all of us and everything here produces its own light. They are not necessary. Nobody sleeps here, nobody gets fatigued, nobody ever gets tired. This is our native territory as individual Atmas. The sound here is of a high note of a flute playing a hauntingly beautiful melody. Cannot be described in human terms. But you feel it pulsing through the white core of your being. And if the physical form that's perfect here, that represents you, had a heart, you'd be feeling it pulsing through that area, the solar plexus. And so we are moving up into this vortex in only a short way, and it comes out into a short doorway, and on the other side is an even brighter, brilliant cobalt blue atmosphere in a specially created parallel dimension between the top of what is called the Atma plane and the 6th realm, and it's sandwiched between the two. And as we come out into that, and that vortex vanishes below us, we are looking into the distance of this brilliant cobalt blue light, and we see a huge circular floating landmass surrounded by an even more brilliant diamond-like beach glowing with about a foot of light. There are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks way near the center of it, and we're suddenly looking down into them as a group of people. And you see that there in the basin between them is a luminous blue-green glowing lake, and a central white island in the center of it, from which extends a blue glass-like tower, smooth as glass, looks like glass. It's transparent. It rises up very tall to a flattened oval center, and there's a fountain in it. No statue of Satnam. It is a functioning device between higher realities and lower ones. And then it goes up to a minaret point. We find ourselves in a circle around this fountain, easily fit in it. And we can look out through these transparent blue glass walls and see with clarity how big the Hue Expansion Ray Academy is here. We look at from outside as a group and look down on these base of these mountains. We see these horseshoe-shaped tunnels with kind of a golden white walls, and there's a white roadway extending out from them. And they extend from all these tunnels around the base of these 6 mountains and continue straight to the ocean. There's no real water out there, but it continues to that luminous beach like the spokes of a bicycle tire. And to the right and left of each of these roadways, every so often is a clearing, and there's a teaching facility in each one. When you look out into the horizon from further above the Hugh Expansionary Academy, what we're looking at now is what's positioned out in that cobalt blue water. It's a little darker than the atmosphere, but it's like ocean water. And there's this luminous white beach, and out further are 12 little islands surrounding the outer circumference of the Hugh Expansionary Academy. There is a single clear dome on each one, almost covers the entire island. There's these beautiful trees around it, very well landscaped. 3 golden-sided quartz-capped pyramids in each one. And in the center, a sphere, like blue glass, hovering above a white stone floor. And standing above it is a male, and the next dome covering the next island is a female, male, female, going around the outer circumference. And what they look like is about 6 feet tall. You can tell they're human from their arms and legs, different single-colored gowns, different colored hair to their shoulders, no facial features, because that is not how they are. When you look into their white light of their faces, you can see levels upon levels of galactic nature, all through the planes, going upward and going lower. So we're being exposed to and seeing the mechanics of creation, the silent mentors. Normally we don't have any exposure to them or have anything to do with them or them us. So they alternate masculine and feminine, but not in the negative and positive sense of the lower worlds. And hovering above them is this Atma, which we can see, 4 times wider in dimension, in diameter than us, twice as many teardrop shapes and much brighter. And we're going to go out to the northern end of the roadway and extend ourselves offshore out into the cobalt blue atmosphere and find ourselves in a circle of beings hovering around the center of a female or feminine looking silent mentor. Ramu, Opelum, Etin, Din, Trellian, a dozen other master teachers, male and female, are here. And what we're doing is hovering around this one entity. Inside the dome, pyramids are in the background. They are devices. There's a shaft of white golden light coming down into this sphere of light with a cobalt blue star in it, hovering above this white circular stone floor. The energy that's moving down into the Atma of this silent mentor is passing through their physical appearing form. And it's moving horizontally through us, in between this silent mentor and Turellian, who's hovering up in the beam of light, way up higher. And behind us are these master teachers in a circle. And it's moving through us, through them, and then it's coming down through them and passing through us and going back to this single silent mentor. So we are rubbing shoulders with such a being. They teach by direct example. What's taking place here is really the creation of a new order of being. A kind of a gentle blend between the unlimited abilities of a silent mentor who run the mechanics of creation and a master teacher on the other side. So as we wake up in this journey, we're not going to be just what we were a billion years ago. We're becoming something else, evolving. We become co-creatively part of the solution instead of the problem. When you look up, you see this vortex is still going further upward above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy atmosphere. And we find ourselves projected up into it. Satnam is not on this part of the journey. Turelian is still in the center of the focus of the beings we are in a circle around him. And then we find ourselves coming out into a whirling, massive energy of yellow and red and fiery energy moving around, disappearing under our feet, passing through us, and is nothing solid here. There's one thing in the distance, and it looks like a gigantic silver fir tree with its roots extending down in this whirling energy. And the top of the tree going beyond vision. There's a massive being approaching us, just hard to describe, beyond an Atma. Brilliant. Now this is who we call Agam Purusha. He is the guardian or caretaker or administrator of this reality. And this is the raw energy of creation. And his function is to transform that from a higher level down to the lower worlds. When I first met with Agam Purusha, I asked to be his friend because that's what I was motivated to do. We've been friends ever since. I did not put him on a pedestal. Instantly respected him, of course. Now you see that tree, we're going to move right into it by his permission. And we're going to go right into the trunk of this golden white light, roaring up and down the trunk of this silver tree. As we pass through the needles on the branches, you can see individual planets depicted in each needle. Whole branches, parts of galaxies, things like that, on multiple levels. This is called the Tree of Life. It is also a type of device. And we're moving up the trunk of this tree at tremendous speed. And we come out the other end, we find ourselves in a circle of beings around Turelian. I'm right beside him. And we see in the distance this huge, even more brilliant cobalt blue light everywhere. And behind it, this white golden light of the hue. You can see it just behind the blue energy. And in the distance, you can see what looks like a single silvery golden galaxy turning on its axis. And we're moving right between these beings that are not stars like in a galaxy, but individual atmas, very bright. We're passing between them as a group, moving between layers of them until we enter a void in the center. And in the center of that void is a white island, spherical. And hovering above that is this massive looking Atma. Many more layers of teardrops, but it's gigantic compared to us. And we come right up to it. This is the ocean of sound and light. This is Source. This is Prime Creator. There are two other levels we'll go on someday to visit. The silent mental realm above here and the one fairly recently created called the Hue Expansion Ray Plane, which is further. But this is really, for practical purposes, the source itself. And we're moving through the individual teardrops of this, whatever it is. The space is just unimaginable. We pass through it easily until we come to the center of this white, radiant, sun-like center, and we move right into it. As individual spherical beings, the white core of our being is identical to this, like a drop from an ocean of the same energy. And as we're in the middle of it, floating in it, we hear this deep baritone voice with feminine nature to it at the same time. Welcome us home. This is where we departed from long ago, several 100 billion Earth years ago, and started playing around with worlds of time and space that we helped create and bring into creation. We helped create the failed experiment of good and evil. If we want to change it, bitching about it won't change a thing. But from here and from the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, we can help co-create change for the first time in the lower worlds of time and space and bring about an unexpected transformation on planet Earth that will not happen without our assistance and that of billions of others. Then we find ourselves hovering out in space by planet Earth. Then you find yourself in the etheric plane. We're moving around by direct projection now to get you used to this. You're looking at 80,000 continents floating out into space like worlds would be. And you're standing on the steps of luminous steps going up to a palatial estate, each one of you. And you have a transparent body form. You can see the chakras. This is a luminous, transparent body, and the Atma is hovering above it. And you will see a perfect form here, probably several million years old compared to an Earth person, maybe older. Now, this is a doorway between going across the void into the upper worlds and coming down to the lower worlds. And most of the beings here do not move. They do not go across the void as they should be. They're so caught up in the phenomena of near eternity, not perfect, but a little bit of negativity still in it. And so you're going to see yourselves, you're going to see Satnam and Turelian stand beside each one of you. And they're pointing upward. And this form you have there is looking up at the Atma that's running it, you. And you're having it look up across the void, and you're having it look down. And you can see right through the plane into the mental plane, where all thought moves matter. And you are doctors or scientists of different races, much more ancient than anything on Earth. You're in like a metropolis, some of you on islands. Big worlds, bigger than you'd ever find in the lower worlds. And you look up and you realize Turelian and Satnam are standing beside you, and they're making you look up to your etheric body and down to your causal body. You find yourself on a world with thousands of islands, beautifully landscaped, domes and cities and different structures, boats sailing on their own energy. And you are living in a palatial estate on one of the, what I would call the pure parallel dimension of the causal plane. And you are there, Satnam and Turelian, and they're having you look up, see your mental body, and look down to see your astral body. And then you're on another place that's paradisically like a tropical paradise. Hundreds of thousands of islands on a planet. And you're standing near a state, could be a dome structure like a geodesic dome, could be pyramid, could be a conventional type home with transparent walls. And you're standing on a deck, and you look human, probably about 36 to 40 years of age, probably thousands of years old. And there's Turelian and Satnam having you look up at the mental body and look down to your physical body, sitting there in a chair lying down on Earth. And there's Satnam and Turelian standing beside you, having you look up to your astral body where all emotion comes from. And for the first time, these higher selves are aware of each other. And then you find yourself hovering near the ceiling with this man and woman from the Galactic Alliance still beside you. The energy is moving down through the ceiling that we just brought from our journey. It's passing through the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body, your aura, and it's passing onward into Earth, into the atmosphere. And then it's extending out into space through 3 pyramids that are on Earth and 2 of bottom's deepest oceans, one in a hollowed out interior of a mountain in the Himalayas. And then it's moving right out through another series of pyramids and entering the galactic core, the axis of the galaxy, which is a white golden shaft of light roaring up and down. It's a doorway. And then it goes up back to source. So it passes through you and me for our benefit, but continues on its way for the benefit of others. So when you're ready, open your eyes. You might as well if you're back here on Earth. Now, what I'll do is bring the recording. We can do 2 things. We can talk and have questions on the recording, or we can close down this journey and just talk amongst ourselves. What would you prefer? instant response, whatever. Okay.